Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Guardian. Let's jump right into it. Chapter 7. Zhao Yunlan, never one to politely refuse help, just lets go and entrusts his life to Shen Wei, as if he weren't dangling from the 18th floor and in danger of splattering onto the pavement like rotten fruit. The professor may look gentle, but he's incredibly strong. Zhao Yunlan's wrists are going numb in his grip, his hands turning purple, as Shen Wei pulls him up so forcefully that his sleeve rubs a layer of skin off his elbow. Shen Wei wraps his arms around Zhao Yunlan, and the two land in a heap on the ground. Zhao Yunlan doesn't want to weigh the professor down, so he supports himself on his hands, but his wrists are bruised, and Shen Wei seems to be holding him exceptionally tight, not like the instinctive grip of someone falling, but like a powerful embrace. Of course, Shen Wei recovers his wits eventually, as Zhao Yunlan starts to struggle. He releases him at once, pushing up his glasses to cover any emotion. Zhao Yunlan has been around the block a few times and is good at reading people. In Shen Wei's clumsy reaction, he keenly senses a hint of embarrassment, which Shen Wei has no intention to display in front of someone else. Zhao Yunlan gets up and, pretending not to have noticed, takes out a pack of tissue paper and proceeds to wipe the dust, blood, and dirt off his arm with a wince. "I'm glad you came back, or I'd have been the clock pendulum for Dragon City University." Shen Wei, still in shock, doesn't reply. "And you? What's wrong with you?" Zhao Yunlan decides to give Shen Wei a break and starts firing questions at the girl. "Boyfriend broke up with you? Got told off by the teacher? Failed your exams? Kids these days. You're so well off, you can even afford an education. What, were you just bored to death and decide to get into trouble?" The poor girl's cries turns to bawling, and Zhao Yunlan falls silent. Suddenly, Professor Shen says, "It's too dangerous." "Totally," Zhao Yunlan continues at once. "You hear your teacher. That was way too dangerous, don't you get it? All right, stop crying and let's get down. I'll take you to the hospital, and I'm gonna have to call your parents." Shen Wei gets up with a glance at Zhao Yunlan. Then he puts on a stern face and turns towards the girl. For a full minute, he just glares at her, while she gets ever more intimidated, her bawling turning into small choking sounds and hiccups. The professor reminds Zhao Yunlan of his dead grandpa, who was also an experienced intellectual and a gentleman. He was always friendly and benign and would never resort to harsh words or violence, no matter how furious he was. But his angered glares were always more than enough to teach the kids a lesson. "If someone else died because of you, how could you live with that?" Shen Wei admonishes her gravely. The girl mumbles, "Yes, I'm sorry." Zhao Yunlan, on the other hand, finds this a little embarrassing. He rubs his nose. "Well, look, I'm still fine. But you really need to think hard about this. Think of your parents. Think of yourself and your life ahead of you. You're still so young. Come now, stop crying. I'll take you to the infirmary." He glances at Shen Wei, who shows no reaction, and so he helps the girl up and supports her on the walk downstairs. There, the unconscious Go Changcheng is still propped up in the corner like before. Da Qing runs forward and wakes him up by clawing at his face. Ah, poor intern! The suicide scene has attracted the attention of a crowd. The previously deserted corridor is now full of people. Many teachers have come to find out what happened. Under their curious gaze, Go Changcheng comes to with an inhumane scream. Wait, let me say that again, sorry. Under their curious gaze, Go Changcheng comes to with an inhumane scream. He opens his eyes, blood streaming down his face, to see his chief standing nearby, awkwardly holding a young girl and saying, "You need some physical training. You can't do this job if you keep passing out." In full view of the public, Go Changcheng doesn't dare say anything, but he knows what's going on and lowers his head in shame. Zhao Yunlan considers, then says, "Well, I still have something to take care of here. How about you go with Da Qing and investigate the victim's background? Do you think you can handle that on your own?" When he hears the emphasis added to "on your own," Da Qing licks his paws, self-satisfied, and gives a haughty meow. Go Changcheng shivers. This is a glorious but challenging mission. Afraid, Go Chang-chung raises his head, looking reluctant and miserable. Zhao Yunlan ignores his silent complaint, benevolently pats him on the head, then looks at Da Qing and leaves without a word. Shun Wei still looks stern, and he hasn't said a word. Someone asks him in a whisper what happened, but he only shakes his head absent-mindedly. He steps out of sight and puts his hand between his collarbones. The shape of a pendant can be seen through his shirt. He closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and follows Zhao Yunlan. Zhao Yunlan asks the girl on the way down, "What's your name?" "Li Qian." "Which faculty are you from? Which year?" "Foreign Languages, Postgraduate Year 1. "Were you born here?" Li Qian hesitates, then nods slowly. "So, why did you do it?" Li Qian stays silent. Zhao Yunlan thoughtfully looks at Li Qian. Her eyes are baggy and her gaze is listless and bloodshot. She looks unhealthy and down on her luck. Professor Shun suddenly says, "The Foreign Languages faculty has high requirements for liberal arts and general elective credits. Have you ever taken my class?" Li Qian gives him a careful look and nods. "I mentioned in class," Shun Wei says, his voice as if giving a lecture, low and pleasant, at a comfortable speed. "There are only two things in this world that are worth dying for. One is your family and country, that is to fulfill the requirements of loyalty and filial piety. The other is your closest loved ones, that is for self-fulfillment. Apart from those, any kind of suicide is a cowardly act. Do you understand?" Li Qian's voice quivers, and she quickly presses her lips together. "I'm sorry, Professor Shun. I only did it on an impulse. I didn't think it through, and it almost got..." She looks up at Zhao Yunlan and back down again quickly. Chief Zhao is very handsome, and he's wearing a friendly smile, but when Li Qian meets his eyes, she instinctively shuffles closer to Shun Wei. Zhao Yunlan lights a cigarette and looks at her with that smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. "Young student, I've heard of killing someone on impulse, but not killing yourself on impulse. It's almost as if you were... possessed." When she hears possessed, Li Qian pales. Zhao Yunlan keeps digging. "What are you afraid of? Tell me, did you see something on the rooftop?" Li Qian laughs unconvincingly. "It's just... the rooftop. What could I have seen?" "Well, I saw something." Zhao Yunlan stares into space and blows out a cloud of smoke. "When you jumped down, there was a crowd on the rooftop, and they were all laughing at you." Li Qian trembles and holds her arm tightly, her teeth chatter. Zhao Yunlan sizes her up for a while, flicks away some ashes, and then puts his hand on her shoulder. "Well, go inside. This is the university hospital." He says hello to the teacher on duty at the door, hands Li Qian over to Shun Wei, and stays outside, still smoking. The hospital of Dragon City University has an artificial river at the entrance, with a small bridge across it. Zhao Yunlan leans lazily against the wooden railing and slowly exhales smoke onto his watch. The white smoke soon dissipates, and a thin mist condenses inside the watch. Shortly after, the face of an elderly woman appears inside the watch, staring out at Zhao Yunlan through the glass. Zhao Yunlan raises his eyebrows. "The old cat might have been right," he murmurs to himself. "It's a new ghost that died less than a week ago, appearing on the revealing mirror in broad daylight. That takes a special kind of bravery. Old lady, what kind of powerful being are you?" When he hears footsteps from behind, Zhao Yunlan quickly wipes over the watch and the image disappears. He turns around and sees Shun Wei approach, carrying a small tray. Shun Wei sets down the tray with wet wipes and medicine on it, drops his eyes, and unceremoniously takes Zhao Yunlan's grazed arm, carefully rolls up his sleeve, and grabs the distilled water from the tray. "It's okay," Zhao Yunlan says quickly. "I can do it myself." "How would you do it yourself?" Shun Wei washes the wound with water and dries it with cotton pads as if he were taking care of a newborn baby. "Tell me if it hurts." Zhao Yunlan is a bit uncomfortable and steps backward. "I'm fine, really. It just needs a rinse with tap water." Shun Wei does not look up. "It's a hot day. What if it gets infected?" Shun Wei has long eyelashes. When he looks down, he has delicate features, the shape of his eyelids so clear that they seem to be painted. His glasses obscure a lot, so at first glance he doesn't seem striking, but at a closer look, he is very attractive. Zhao Yunlan's wayward heart tingles. Zhao Yunlan doesn't consider himself gay, but his taste is certainly wider than most people's. Whether it's a man or a woman, anyone who's pretty enough rings his bell. He'll go after anyone who moves, but he's a decent type. Even though he doesn't discriminate, he won't go after two people at once. If he falls for someone, he's determined and loyal, so maybe he's not too shabby a lover after all. But his last relationship ended about half a year ago, and Professor Shun is very much his type. It's hard to resist the temptation. Should he go for it, or leave him alone? Shenwei looks like he's a very serious type of person. Zhao Yunlan is very much aware of what he has to offer, a bizarre and unconventional career, endless social engagements full of drinking and partying. His life's a mess. He drives an expensive car, sure, but he lives in a dog's lair. He isn't exactly boyfriend material, let alone the guy you'd want to settle down with and marry. He should probably stay away from someone who's decent and well-educated. But the young professor seems attracted to Zhao Yunlan, and he's such a catch too. It would be such a shame to let him slip through his fingers. Shenwei finishes cleaning up Zhao Yunlan's arm and applying medicine. He's about to bandage it with gauze. Zhao Yunlan stops him. It's just a scratch. The gauze is unnecessary. It's such a hot day, and I don't want to look like a mummy. He puts out his cigarette and wraps his arm casually around Shenwei's back. Let's go take a look at that girl, shall we? Shenwei freezes like a statue and stumbles forward a few steps, his ears and neck flushing in a rush of pink. He scrambles to break free of Zhao Yunlan's grip and pretends to stay calm while straightening his shirt. What are you so shy about? Zhao Yunlan laughs carelessly, and then, before Shenwei can catch his breath, he changes the subject. Have we met before, Professor Shun? Zhao Yunlan is such a flirt. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 7. Just to recap, they saved the girl, Li Qian, who was about to jump to her death off the building, and Shenwei is also able to pull Zhao Yunlan up from falling. And Shenwei is really struggling to keep his composure. He's really worried about Zhao Yunlan's well-being. He's like, are you hurt? How can you be so reckless? And he even bandages up Zhao Yunlan's arm like a doting hen, right? And of course, even though Zhao Yunlan is kind of sus of Shenwei, he's also at the same time like, wow, this dude's totally my type. Should I go for it? Should I like ask him out or something, even though he may or may not be the enemy? He may or may not be a suspect, but you know, innocent until proven guilty, am I right? So, yeah, Zhao Yunlan, you go for it. Shenwei is definitely interested. You gotta just break down his barrier a little bit more, you know? Okay, so let's keep going to chapter 8. Caught off guard, Shenwei locks eyes with Zhao Yunlan and his mind goes blank. For a few seconds, he stares vacantly at Zhao Yunlan. He can't tear his gaze away. Shenwei knows he really lost self-control today. He shouldn't have met Zhao Yunlan in the first place. Zhao Yunlan doesn't know anything. He doesn't remember anything. He came to the river, crossed the bridge, drank the tea of forgetfulness, passed the 6 realms of existence, and completed reincarnation. His soul has long been washed clean. How could he remember anything? Aha, so, as you can see, Shenwei knows Zhao Yunlan's past self, so he does know him from a long time ago. Shenwei stares intently at his handsome face and his piercing gaze. He really wants to lift his hand and touch him, to feel his warmth again after all those cold years. Eventually, he clears his throat and says hoarsely, I've met you before. Zhao Yunlan awaits his explanation. Countless times in my heart, I never had the courage to find you, but I know everything about you. Shenwei almost says it out loud, but he restrains himself and stutters. In a case you worked on. Which one? Zhao Yunlan is surprised. Shenwei becomes more fluent. After the first lie, he no longer hesitates. The 12 suicides at the Twin Tower around 5 or 6 years ago. I was about to graduate back then, and I was looking for a cheap flat, so I chose the Twin Tower. The suicides had caused the price to plummet. Zhao Yunlan frowns and considers. I am sure I never saw you there. You didn't see me, but I was living on the top floor, and I saw you. I even saw... Shunwei pauses for a moment and produces an astonished expression. I even saw you pull a dark shadow from a room and stuff it into a bottle. And then you said, the criminal is caught, let's call it a day. Zhao Yunlan is startled. You live on the top floor? You're really quite fearless. Shunwei lowers his head. You can check the accommodation records. I'm not lying. Of course he's not lying. He really lived there at that time, but only because he wanted to secretly take a peek at a certain someone, not for some stupid reason like looking for a place to stay. He's told mostly the truth, but this one lie almost exhausts him. Zhao Yunlan seems to be convinced, and even jokes. Negligence. It's my negligence. We ought to erase the memories of normal citizens who got involved, but I somehow missed you. So, how did it make you feel? Did it make you question everything you believed in? Shunwei smiles with difficulty and doesn't reply. And whether Zhao Yunlan believes him or not, he doesn't pursue the matter. As they enter the university hospital, they see Li Qian sitting by the window, clasping a glass of hot sugar water one of the nurses has given her. She looks down at her own shadow, sad and depressed. When Zhao Yunlan knocks on the door, she jumps in fear, and only relaxes when she recognizes Zhao Yunlan and Shunwei. Zhao Yunlan glances at his watch. The reflection of the old lady is still there, but the watch hasn't turned red. Weirdly, this new ghost seems to be gaining life energy. How can a dead person have an aura of life around her? Perhaps she's about to reincarnate? Zhao Yunlan sits down on the bed next to Li Qian. I have a few questions for you. Li Qian looks at him wanly. Since Professor Shun clearly knows about Zhao Yunlan's line of work, Zhao Yunlan isn't afraid to ask in front of him. Lately, have you been seeing things you shouldn't be able to see? Li Qian looks terrified and remains silent. Understood. Zhao Yunlan stares at her forehead and leans forward slightly, propping his elbows on his knees for a closer look. But your third eye hasn't opened, so you shouldn't be able to see these things. Is it because of your fate, or did you touch something you weren't supposed to touch? Li Qian bites her lip and twists her fingers uncomfortably. Oh, so it's the latter. Zhao Yunlan lowers his voice. Tell me, what did you touch? Li Qian refuses to talk, and Zhao Yunlan laughs coldly. If you don't tell me, then you can live the rest of your life being haunted by it. Haven't you heard of curiosity killed the cat? Some things are better left untouched. A sundial. Li Qian pauses for a long time, but finally goes on. It's an antique passed down for generations in my family. It has many tiny rocks like fish scales on it. It's black. The elderly call it... The sundial of reincarnation, Zhao Yunlan says. Li Qian gives him a surprised look and nods hesitantly. The sundial completes a full circle every day, day after day, and it symbolizes the eternal cycle of life, death, and reincarnation. Zhao Yunlan pauses slightly before continuing. But there's also another saying, that reincarnation is a constant process of killing. The past is lost, and there's no turning back. When someone reincarnates, the old life is destroyed, and there's no option but to move forward to a new life. Zhao Yunlan doesn't realize it, but Shunwei behind him is trembling. What did you do with it? He asks. Li Qian bites her lip. All right, I'll rephrase. Did you do anything bad with it? Li Qian's eyes widen. I didn't. Zhao Yunlan gazes at her silently. I didn't! Li Qian stands up and stumbles backwards. She hunches over and faces Zhao Yunlan sideways, defensively. Why would I use a family heirloom to do something bad? You don't know what you're talking about. You... She's very agitated and starts coughing heavily. Shunwei frowns and steps forward to comfort her. Slow down. Take it easy. He turns around and says to Zhao Yunlan, She's been through a lot already, Chief Zhao. Could you be a little more gentle with her? Zhao Yunlan rubs his nose. All right, I'll leave out the irrelevant questions. One last question and I'm out of here. He takes out the photograph of the victim. Have you seen this student recently? Li Qian glances at the picture and shakes her head, but a moment later she thinks of something and grabs hold of the photo. She examines it closely and says uncertainly, I might have seen someone like her yesterday. She looked just a bit like her. Zhao Yunlan tenses. What exactly yesterday? What was she wearing? At night. Li Qian pauses for thought. I was on my way back after the library was closed, around 10 o'clock. I left campus to buy something, and I saw her at the entrance. I don't really remember her clothes. Oh, right, I remember. She wore the orientation camp t-shirt. I had the same t-shirt, so I noticed her. Did a lot of people wear that t-shirt yesterday? Most of the new students are on the new campus. Among those of us here at the old main one, only few would have that t-shirt. Were you wearing it too? I didn't want to wear it directly because it wasn't washed yet, so I wore it on top of my clothes. Then it was a little hot, so I just stuffed it in my bag. Oh. Zhao Yunlan hesitates. When you saw her, were there people around? Yes, quite a few people were passing by, and there were quite a few cars as well. Li Qian senses something from Zhao Yunlan's expression and asks, What's wrong? No, I'm not talking about College Road. I'm talking about the little alley at the side entrance of the university. She went from there, right? Was there anyone else there at the time? Zhao Yunlan hasn't answered her question directly, and that makes Li Qian feel uneasy. Her eyes drift to the side, and first she nods, then shakes her head in confusion. I don't really remember. Maybe? She might have gone from there, but I didn't follow her in. That alley is a dead end. Only those of us living on the East Campus would take it as a shortcut, so it's usually relatively quiet. You didn't go from there? Zhao Yunlan interrupts her. I didn't. But don't you also live on the East Campus? Li Qian runs out of words and stammers for a while, before she says, panicked, I took a detour to go buy something. Didn't you say you were just coming back to campus after buying something outside? Zhao Yunlan interrupts her again, his tone becoming more stern. I'd like to be nice to you, but you've got to cooperate with the investigation. Tell me the truth, okay? Li Qian tenses up again and clutches at her clothes. I am telling the truth. Her name is Lu Romei. She's also a postgraduate student here. You asked me what happened last night? I'm telling you now. Your classmate died. Zhao Yunlan utters every word slowly, glaring at Li Qian. Estimated time of death around 10 o'clock, which means you may well be the last person who saw her alive. Li Qian's pupils contract. The glass slips from her hand, crashes to the ground, and breaks. She's horrified, her eyelids twitching and her fingers trembling, and her lips turn pale. End of chapter 8. Okay, so wow, Zhao Yunlan is very suspicious of Li Qian because her eyewitness account doesn't seem to be matching up. She claims to have seen the student that was murdered, but then her timing and her place, like her timing and where she was at that time don't seem to match up. And so Zhao Yunlan is really suspicious of Li Qian. Could she possibly be involved in the murder, either directly or indirectly? Also, she has a ancestral sundial which is used for reincarnation. So I wonder if that will come into play as well. So I am really excited to see more of Shenwei and Zhao Yunlan's interactions. We got to see some of Zhao Yunlan's thirst for Professor Shen. And we got to also see some of Shenwei's yearning. He's waited for Zhao Yunlan, and he's pinned or pined over him for a long time, silently watching him from the shadows. He even rented a place at the same crime scene that Zhao Yunlan was investigating in the past, just so that he could be near him and look at him from afar. Low-key stalker, but I don't think Zhao Yunlan really minds because he's kind of into that. So, but yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's read-along. Wow, I am tongue-tied today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's read-along, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!